How to enrich your life experience. Every one of us has wondered what we could do to improve our life, from changing unwanted habits to taking up a new hobby. Few of us, however, have had a revelation on what activity we could engage in to enrich all aspects of our life. In this video, I'll discuss the mechanics of a simple argument and what steps to take in order to enrich your own life. If I asked you to visualize a chair in your mind and then draw it on paper, then I asked 10,000 more people to do the same, chances are not a single chair would look exactly the same. There would be all sorts of colors, sizes, angles, and of course varying degrees of artistic talent. But what do all these drawings have in common? The answer is perspective. Human perspective is fostered by experience, and perspective is something we all possess regardless of our personality. It is apparent in every era of our lives. We cannot eliminate it, for it is who we are. We may only change it, not through willpower alone, but with time and experience. It gradually shifts and adapts over time as we experience more of the world around us. Although none of us experience the world the exact same way, we're able to interpret our perspectives of the world and express them through a variety of mediums, such as through language, symbols, and art. Unfortunately, these forms of expression are riddled with flaws. For language, ambiguous uses cause misunderstandings. For symbols, interpretation relies on a grounded mental state which shows that the symbols are actually meaningful. For art, imperfection comes from a lack of skill and knowledge. Out of these three primary forms of expression, the one that produces the most meaningful and saturated experiences would be the one that naturally leads to a wider perspective of the world, allowing us many more opportunities to enrich our life experience. Now, how do we decide which language, symbol, or type of art would be the most beneficial to us? Let's take a look. Starting in the language category, we know of thousands of spoken and written languages. Few people know more than 2 or 3 languages fluently, and certainly would have difficulty expressing their thoughts to someone who doesn't understand theirs. Language is excellent at bringing people together, but it also segregates the speaker from the non-speaker. Symbols, like languages, take on many forms. They represent an idea or a concept efficiently conveyed from text or image to the mind of the interpreter. Although symbols are used by all cultures, the inherent meaning of the symbols remains known only to those who know it. The meanings of symbols are all in our heads, and the semantic interpretation is not intrinsic to the system. Art, however, proves itself to be superior to language and symbols because it universally expresses the essence of human skill, intellect, creativity, and purpose. There are no boundaries between cultures. It allows the engaged to better understand the connection of the universal nature of human conditions and emotions. As we delve into the various branches of art to weigh their effectiveness, we will discover the raw beauty and expression that has advanced mankind far beyond what it would have been without art. Imagine if there was no outlet for human expression. Think about it. The cities would be dull, color would have no meaning, and music would not exist. We live in a world of art, but there are varying levels of excellence in this category, which I'll now discuss. First, we have visual art, aesthetics for the eye. This is likely the most common form of art because it is easily accessible and we are predominantly visual creatures. Visual art is all around us in the form of videos, paintings, photography, and even propaganda. Next, we have auditory art, which is marked by the arrangement of sounds to produce music, aesthetics for the ear. These are the 2 main genres for our 2 most important senses, and I won't go into detail about the art styles for the combinations of senses, as well as for smell, taste, and touch. Following chapter 15 of Leo Tolstoy's What is Art, he states that the stronger the infection, the better is the art. Now, when we compare the effectiveness of visual and auditory arts, we must determine how well it is expressed and how well it infects. In visual art, we find the strokes of color coating the canvas and the curves of the sculpture from the skilled knife work, but not so often are the pieces immersive to the extent that they evoke speechlessness and unexplainable raw emotion within ourselves. Visual art tends to fail at making a deeper connection within us, unlike music. Think about how often you are emotionally engaged by a piece of music, compared to how often you are captivated by a visual piece. Visual art often uses symbols, which sometimes require background knowledge in order to understand the meaning. Without any background and lack of knowledge, visual pieces do not enthrall us the same way that music does. To tie this back to the first point about enriching our lifestyles, I'll remind you that we are searching for the experience that gives the most perspective, or the most superior form of art. I've shown you the conclusion that music belongs in this category, but of course now we must ask which genre of music is the most superior. Let me use an analogy. Take New York City for an example. If you look around the beautifully designed city, you'll notice the unique approaches to architecture. Some structures have a sleek modern design, while others tower at unprecedented heights. However, there are also countless mediocre structures populating the city, considering the fact that there are minimal requirements to construct a building. The art of architecture is a synthesis of mathematically and artistically challenging applications. Let's compare this to music. The art of music is also an intellectually challenging practice that requires a deeper understanding of the interconnectedness of mathematical aesthetics of sound, from how we perceive it to how we process it. It could be stated that the difference between the orchestration of this music and the plunking of random notes on an instrument is equivalent to the difference between an artist painting a picture of a city and an engineer who designs the inner workings of the city, all while ensuring that the system is stable, functional, and effective. From this analogy, it is clear that classical music is a skyscraper of musical genres. Not to get into the nitty-gritty of Bach, Mozart, and Beethoven's genius, but their compositions shine with mathematically brilliant complexity. People today still analyze these profound compositions to reveal the divine treasures buried deep within the notes, and musicians devote their lives to explore this esoteric art. They receive the utmost fulfillment from experiencing and performing vicariously through the greatest musical minds that have ever lived. Even one of the conceptual foundations for this superiority also comes from an axiom that states that it is based upon natural acoustic laws, the natural overtone series providing a link between man and nature. Upon drawing this conclusion, the ties into the initial premises presented should be summarized. If you indulge yourself in classical music by going to concerts or learning how to play an instrument, you will gradually deepen your understanding of this refined expression of experience, which will then lead to an enriched life experience. Thank you for listening.